everyone! Thanks for tuning into the 17th Take, a project brought to you by the Community College of Philadelphia's Communication and Media Studies program and CCP TV studio. I'm your host, Siani Strickland, coming to you from 17th Street and Spring Garden. And today, we're diving into a story that's reshaping our city in real time. The city of Philadelphia is known best as the city of brotherly love, where murals outnumber billboards and history meets hustle on every block. But lately, that love feels a bit, well, complicated. More and more, people are moving here, drawn in by Philly's diehard sports culture, booming food scene, captivating arts, and lower costs than nearby New York City and DC. But as new residents move into the city, longtime Philadelphians are being priced out of the neighborhoods they've called their own for generations. Today, we're breaking down Philly's housing crossroads and how it is reshaping who gets to call this city home. We'll explore Philly's construction boom and what's pulling people to the area, how corporate gentrification is reshaping black and brown neighborhoods, and what's being done to fight on behalf of the communities being impacted most. So today, joining me will be my co-host, Will Towns.
Hi, Siani. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's start with what's drawing so many people to the city. Why are so many people packing up and heading to Philadelphia?
Well, first off, Philly has like a rare mix of grit, heart, and charm that's really unique. There's a tight knit community energy and a big creative scene. It's a big city that kind of has a small town feel, which I think a lot of people don't realize until they get here. And people are really starting to notice Philly. It's been named America's most walkable city by USA Today for 3 straight years. And beyond just walkability, it's a city with real spirit. From the Eagles' real Super Bowl win to the food scene that's earning global attention, multiple James Beard Award winners in the city. It's also one of the most affordable East Coast cities with growing job and schooling opportunities. And research from the Pew Charitable Trust shows that most new residents are between 18 and 34, and they're typically more highly educated than the city's average.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's clear Philly is pulling in young professionals and new graduates for both opportunity and affordability.
Yeah, and you can really see that shift when you walk around. Neighborhoods like Fishtown, Point Breeze, Brewerytown have become hotspots for development with coffee shops, modern condos, art spaces popping up where old row homes and warehouses once stood. But that demand really does come with a price. According to the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia, the city's average rent has risen 19% between 2018 and 2022, and it's rising a lot faster than wages for working families are rising. And remember, Pennsylvania minimum wage has been stuck at 7.25 since 2009.
New growth can often come with new consequences, and in Philly, it's reshaping entire neighborhoods.
Exactly. When you walk through certain parts of the city, Philly's transformation is clear. Where old row homes sitting next to gray new buildings, it's a visual before and after happening block by block. But it's not just new construction, there's a bigger force at play. A 2025 study by the Reinvestment Fund found that 1 in 4 home purchases made in Philadelphia between 2017 and 2022 were made by corporate investors, not actual families, not first time buyers, but corporations. I moved around in the city a lot growing up, so I've lived in a lot of the different neighborhoods. I spent a good amount of my time riding through these neighborhoods, and I'm always disappointed to see the things that just aren't there anymore. Family owned restaurants, schools, housing projects, and rec centers. And these investors aren't going into luxury districts. The studies show that they're focused on the low cost neighborhoods, which are mostly black and Latino communities. And this has real consequences. Black home ownership in Philadelphia has now fallen below 50% for the first time in decades. And in parts of South and West Philly, the black population has dropped nearly 30% in areas experiencing heavy redevelopment.
Hmm. That means the very neighborhoods that were historically under resourced are now being targeted for acquisition and redevelopment.
Exactly. And that same report by the Reinvestment Fund found that large corporate landlords file far more evictions and wrap up more code violations than smaller landlords. So residents aren't just dealing with rising rent, they're dealing with worse conditions and less stability. It's a cycle. You buy cheap, you rent high, and then you maintain less. And according to the Pew Charitable Trust, across the city, more than half of renters are considered cost burden, meaning they spend 30% of their time or 30% or more of their income on housing. And when outside investors control a quarter of the home purchases in working class neighborhoods, it pushes out local buyers, especially first time homeowners. Houses that could have stayed in families or been purchased by longtime residents become rental properties instead. All of this accelerates displacement, it narrows home ownership pathways, raises rent, and reshapes local culture.
So, what does this mean for longtime residents, especially those from Black and Latino families?
Put quite simply, they can't really afford to stay here anymore. Rising rent and property taxes mean less stability and a higher chance of eviction. The same neighborhoods that once faced redlining and disinvestments are now being brought up for profit. At the heart of it, the issue isn't just development, it's displacement. Growth for some has come at the direct expense of others. And displacement doesn't always mean moving somewhere new. For some families, it means having nowhere to go at all. Homelessness in Philadelphia is directly connected to the housing crisis. Thousands of residents experience homelessness each year, and many are right on the edge of homelessness. The Section 8 wait list has been so overwhelmed that it stayed closed for many years, and even families with vouchers struggle to find landlords who will accept them.
And when people lose stable housing, the impact spreads fast. Kids miss more school, adults face job instability, and entire neighborhoods lose the people who gave them their culture, character, and history in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And the costs are clear. They're more than just growing pains. They affect Philly communities on a real level.
So, we've discussed a bit about what's driving the deepest issues at the heart of Philly's housing crisis. But what's being done about it?
Yeah, so the good news is it's not all doom and gloom. Philly is responding, and a lot of meaningful work is being done to address these issues on several levels. On the local government level, the city of Philadelphia operates the Housing Trust Fund, which supports affordable housing development and helps residents with repairs or emergency assistance. The city also expanded the Right to Counsel program, meaning tenants in certain zip codes facing eviction are legally guaranteed a lawyer, something shown to keep more families in their homes. And there are creative housing solutions as well popping up across the city. One example is the Westloft Apartments in West Philly, a former high school that got transformed into more than 250 apartments. This is a creative solution in a lot of ways. My mom actually went to this high school. I know a lot of popular Black Philadelphians that have gone to this high school. So it is kind of bittersweet seeing something that was once a historical landmark and a really big school that put out a lot of talent and a lot of great people being turned into somewhere for people moving into the city to be housed, but it is better than just development or tearing stuff down to make something into apartments. And this adaptive reuse can be significantly more affordable than just building new luxury units. So developers save on construction costs because the structure already existed, and that means more units can be priced within reach for working residents and students. Plus, it preserves the historic architecture that gives Philly so much character and disrupts neighborhoods a lot less than brand new towers. And while all of this helps, a lot of real fight happens at the grassroots level. Organizations like the Women's Community Revitalization Project and the Philly Tenants Unit are pushing for stronger protections, helping renters organize against unfair evictions, and demanding more accountability from corporate landlords. They're a huge piece of this puzzle and giving everyday residents real leverage.
To really understand what this fight looks like in real time, we wanted to hear directly from the people doing the work. Today we're joined by Meg Cruz, a community organizer with Power Interfaith in Philadelphia. Meg Cruz works with congregations and residents across Northwest Philly to build grassroots power around housing affordability. Power Interfaith is organizing residents citywide to demand policy solutions that keep people housed and strengthen the neighborhoods. We're excited to dive into what organizing looks like on the ground and what's at stake in Philly's housing crisis. Megs, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit about what Power Interfaith does, who you serve, and the biggest housing challenges the Philadelphia communities are facing today?
Absolutely. So, Power Interfaith is the largest faith based community organizing effort in the state of Pennsylvania. So, here in Philadelphia, we organize with over 40 congregations across the city. Primarily on our citywide campaign around housing affordability, but we also organize around educational justice and climate justice as well. Um, and then outside of Philadelphia, we also organize with an even greater number of congregations in the surrounding counties. also focused on education and climate justice. Um, Empower Interfaith, as an interfaith organization, we work with congregations across all faith traditions, so Christianity, both Protestant and Catholicism, Judaism, Muslim communities, and other faith traditions like Unitarian Universalists, Quakers. We work with all faith traditions and folks from all races and economic backgrounds. Um, Drawing from our shared set of values about the type of community and city that we want to live in, and with the belief that we all benefit from a city that is more just and more equitable. Um, and so the congregations that I work with in the Northwest are incredibly diverse, both across faith tradition, race, economic class, and life experience. But in terms of the issues that are impacting the Northwest specifically the greatest when it comes to housing, I would say is first and foremost the quickly growing presence of gentrification in the Northwest in particular. Um, and in a way that is disproportionately impacting Black communities in Germantown, Nicetown, Logan, that is being driven by the rise of for-profit developers in the city of Philadelphia, and different city policies that have made it a lot easier for particularly large-scale developers who already have a lot of money to build massive amounts of housing that is unaffordable to the residents who currently live in Philadelphia, and who benefit from things like having the first 20 years of the properties they build going untaxed. Um, but then also what we're seeing in people's day-to-day reality as they figure out how to manage their budgets is not only the growth of gentrification, which is leading to housing costs like rent and property tax going up for everyone, but also things like cuts to federal programs like LIHEAP mean that more and more people are losing access to government benefits at the same time that utility costs like your gas bill, your electric bill, your water bill are going up. And then things specifically like tangled titles and other systemic problems that just place extra burden and make it extra hard for like families who own homes to pass that home on to the next generation and keep that generational wealth. While at the same time, it being very easy for large scale developers not from the city to then either purchase those properties or build new ones that then raise the property tax on those houses and making it harder for families to retain that generational wealth.
I feel like a lot of people are definitely struggling with this right now. So I really want to thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you for having me to talk about it.
Okay, the next question is, how is Philadelphia's growth affecting the communities you work with, particularly in neighborhoods experiencing the most displacement, and what social and economic factors influence these changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, gentrification is a huge issue in the part of the city that I organize in, and for many of the congregations and communities that I work with. And I think, you know, one of the biggest contributing factors to that is the way that city policy has, especially in recent years, been designed to not only attract large scale developers that then contribute to gentrification in a way that small landlords are not. So, city policy in recent years has been made in such a way where it is designed to attract and bring in like large scale corporations that then have the money to build these large scale housing projects and charge rents that are unaffordable for the people who live there, while at the same time those same like sort of protections and considerations are not being extended to uh, the like existing homeowners who live in the communities that are being gentrified, or even when we think of like very small scale landlords, like your uncle who just rehabbed an additional house and rents it out, and that sort of a situation. Um, and yeah, and so it's been designed through things like tax abatements. So in the city of Philadelphia, large scale developers don't have to pay taxes for the first 2 decades of the project being built. which is a policy that is and was made saying that we needed to attract more developers. But then the question is, when those rents aren't affordable to the people living in the communities that they're being built in, is who is this actually for? And then when the ripple effect is that the residents who've lived in these communities for decades are seeing their rent or their property taxes go up, which then makes it unaffordable for them to remain in the community. Yeah, it's a question of like who these policies are meant to serve. Um, and yeah, and there's more I could say. Feel free to ask a follow-up question. I feel like there's a lot in the first question you just asked. But that's kind of my overarching answer to that question.
I feel like you really put it into perspective for us, but I feel like I'll come back to the other questions later. So the next question is: Power Interfaith focuses on local, community-driven leadership. How do your programs and campaigns help to create equitable housing solutions, influence policy, and empower neighborhoods? Also, can you highlight a few of your most effective initiatives and the key to their success?
Absolutely, yeah. So Power Interfaith, uh, our the central focus of our work, in addition to wanting to make change and transform the conditions and the policies that we know are negatively impacting the communities that we organize with and really our entire city collectively, is also being really invested in not just having organizers who are doing that work, but developing leadership in the congregations that we organize with, so that the movement that we're building is not just being held and managed by a select few organizers who are the employees of the organization, but that when we say that we are people powered and led, and that our organizing is being led by the leaders that we're organizing with, that is true, and that how we uh, do the work to make that true is, for myself and the other organizers with Power Interfaith, a big focus of our work is actually on providing training, coaching, and leadership development to the leaders in the congregations that we work with who want to um, be the ones leading what organizing looks like for their congregation or for their neighborhood. And so, practically, what that looks like is both in our organizing work, when we're at different points of preparing for actions or making decisions, we are always bringing in teams of leaders from across the city to make those decisions with us. So we invest a lot of time and energy into making the decisions that we make and the direction we move in as collectively decided as possible. And then we also invest a lot of time and resources into providing training and coaching. So I uh, host monthly meetings for members of our Northwest cluster that are both times for people to get to know each other, but are always include some element of training in a specific organizing skill that relates to what we are doing across the city. And that is because the goal is not for me to go to every church and tell you what to do, but to provide you with the skills and the resources of like how to do community organizing effectively, so that our leaders are then equipped to carry out that work in their congregations in the way that's also yeah, shaped by their expertise and wisdom for what their people want and need and how they want to be organized and involved in this work. Um, and what that looks like is like I would say like a deeper level of buy-in, because we're not just trying to get individuals, but we're trying to develop leaders who then can bring their own base of their neighbors, their congregants into this work. So this past Sunday, you asked for example. So this past Sunday was our most recent peak in our organizing, where we had an assembly of about 500 of our leaders from across the city join us for a panel discussion with members of city council about housing and affordability in Philadelphia. But then, and that I think is like a powerful example of when we all are working together for a shared goal. But another example I think really highlights our focus on leadership development was last summer. We had our first ever, which we're doing again this summer. We called it Power Camp. But we did like a 2-day overnight organizing training, fully paid for, that was just for leaders with power, right? So folks who have been organizing with power as leaders, as volunteers, as clergy, to actually provide the same type of training that like I myself get as an organizer, to really like invest in people's leadership and trust that the more people who have these skills and are moving and organizing within their communities, that like that is far more powerful than like just us as organizers micromanaging how other people lead in their communities. Um, yeah, and I think like the last thing I'll highlight for uh, um, like what we've done was also in November of last year, to raise awareness and visibility in the local media about how the affordability crisis is impacting Philadelphia and how local level policy is contributing to that. We hosted a total of 14 press conferences in a week about the affordability crisis, but all led by churches across the city.
Wow.
So really like showing that who we want in public, who we want leading, are not just a few key spokespeople or organizers, but all of us, because we all have a right to be in public and to demand um, more of our elected officials, and that each of us, the weight of our story and what we're fighting for is enough to be in public and to matter.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned that communities were being displaced by the bigger corporations. What community would you say is most impacted by this in Philadelphia?
Mm. Yeah, I know a lot of communities are being impacted. I know particularly in Northwest Philly, where I organize with, we're seeing that most aggressively in like East Germantown, and I would say Nicetown as well. And part of what my analysis of what's contributing to that is a lot of development happening around Wayne Junction train station, which is like a major regional rail station located right there, sort of in the middle between Nicetown and East Germantown. And yeah, there being a lot of like really rapid development happening there. That's sort of anticipating as this train station is getting remodeled, that it might become like this like commuter hub. But like what that's looking like is like housing costs just in all of the surrounding areas going up, but then also in particular like some really aggressive development when it comes to like vacant lots or like warehouses in the area that are also contributing to that.
Thank you for sharing your insightful perspective and the crucial work that Power Interfaith is doing to support affordable housing in our city. Now, we wanted to leave our viewers with a way to get involved. So, for viewers out there who want to help create a more equitable housing in Philadelphia, where do you think they should start?
Absolutely. Well, for anyone who is looking to get more involved in the fight for affordable housing, I think there's a couple of things folks can do. I think one is to connect with an organizing group that is focusing on the specific aspects of housing that matter most to you or that are impacting you. So Power Interfaith, we have been focused on housing affordability, which is really about people's ability to afford housing costs, both rent and property tax, but also things like utilities. Um, but that being said, there are other groups who organize around housing in the city that are also doing incredible work. So, One Pennsylvania is a group that has been focused on passing legislation in city council specifically to protect renters' legal rights. And so, if you're like someone who has like particularly experienced like violations of your own rights as a tenant, like that, there are other groups that are also focusing on those sides of the housing crisis. Um, and I think what we try to do at Power, and what many organizing groups are focused on, and what is the path to us being able to have a more affordable, safe, livable city, is building the collective strength and power to make that a reality. And so I think what's most important too is for folks to begin connecting with their neighbors, with the folks who have the same housing concerns as they do, and begin identifying like what is our path to not just move as individuals, but to move as a collective unit. And so one other form of housing justice work that I've been really excited and encouraged by, is the growth of what's called tenant unions. So they're similar to labor unions, where in a workplace you would have all of the workers coming together to demand better working conditions of their boss. There are a lot of tenant unions growing in the city of Philadelphia where uh, people who live in like a shared apartment building or have a shared landlord are coming together to make demands of their landlords for fair rent and adequate maintenance and all of those things. And I think what's just most important for any type of organizing that folks do is to be doing it with other people, and to be building relationships with other people, so that whatever work we're doing, whatever path we're on, we're not alone and we are more powerful when we are coming together.
Thank you so much. Also, what would you say is the best way for people to join your organization specifically?
Absolutely. Anyone interested in organizing with power is always welcome to join a monthly base meeting. Um, So I am our Northwest organizer, so I have monthly base meetings on the second Tuesday of every month. But we also have bases in West Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, and Center City. Um, and contacting an organizer is always the best place to start. And you do not have to be a member of a congregation to organize with power, to be clear. We connect with congregations because of kind of what I said earlier, right? Like we really value not doing organizing alone. And houses of worship in particular are spaces where people are already coming together with a shared set of values. And so that is the tradition and the framework that we come out of. But that is not meant to say that you have to be religious in any particular way to organize with us. Um, and so if you are just a curious individual, or if you are connected to a different group, like maybe you're connected to a local moms group or a neighborhood group, or maybe you're a student who's like a part of a club or even just has a friend group who all want to get involved in something. All of those configurations and formations, whether you're coming individually or coming with another type of community, are welcome. And so definitely follow us on, social media to stay up to date on what like next steps and calls to action are. Um, but yeah, students are always welcome to connect with an organizer, join a monthly base meeting, and just reach out to learn more.
This has been such a nice chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, hearing from people doing the work on the ground gives us a clear picture of what real progress looks like. When you mix policy efforts, community organizing, and smarter development strategies like this, you start seeing a path toward a more equitable housing future.
We've covered a lot today, from the rise in Philly transplants to corporate investors buying up homes, to the grassroots organizers fighting to keep families in place. And if there's one takeaway, it's that Philadelphia is at a turning point, a housing crossroads. Now we have to ask, what kind of city do we want Philadelphia to become? One that grows with its residents or that grows at the expense of them? And what do we owe to the communities that have given this city its heartbeat? As students, as young people, we have a stake in our city's future. We don't have to let these changes just happen in front of us without our voices and concerns being heard. A city can evolve and still protect the people who give it its soul. Until next time, I'm Siani Strickland with the Community College of Philadelphia's Communication and Media Studies program and CCP TV studio. And this has been the 17th Take, where conversation meets perspective and awareness meets action.